What's up, comic book fans? Pete here from Comic Books Transformed, where me and my good friend Brian over there talk about comic books that have been adapted into movies and streaming shows. We, of course, always cover Star Wars shows and movies because they are made into comics as well. There's a lot of Star Wars comics. And downstairs over there is my good friend Mike Bongiorno, who's been on the show multiple times, and he's a bit of a Star Wars fan himself. Mike, welcome.
So, Mike, Star Wars fan.
Star Wars fans are nice, right? They're always nice to the people that are on these shows.
We don't
they love everything they do.
Yeah.
Yes. I saw something on Twitter yesterday where this woman, I don't even know her connection to Star Wars, but she was basically saying that like she got multiple death threats like the other day, threats of rape, all these kind of things just because of her connection to Star Wars.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's ridiculous. The Acolyte is a show that's had some controversy, and episode 3 seemed to be the most controversial. There's a couple of things in episode 4 that there's controversy about, but did you guys know that one of them is Ki-Adi-Mundi?
Yes.
You did know that?
Yeah. So there's, I believe we see Ki-Adi-Mundi and Plo Koon as well. But yeah, it's just the fact that it was implied that he wasn't as old as he is, and is kind of like breaks timeline, sort of, if you're following along. But I don't know. That's a lesser controversy, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I think there was some kind of thing with Wikipedia too, where like they changed his date in Wikipedia to reflect the new canon, and like a lot of people got upset about that.
Yeah, I can see that because, people don't value this show. They look down upon it, so they don't want anything that they do like to be affected or changed by it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Mike, Brian and I have already talked about the show for 3 episodes now together, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on The Acolyte.
Well, I've listened to you guys' episodes, and I've been agreeing with almost everything everyone said. I don't like the show. To me, it's not the worst. On a scale of the best being Andor, to me, the worst would still be Ahsoka.
Okay.
But this is almost as bad. And, I find myself feeling like something's missing or I'm waiting for something to click as I watch it. Don't you feel like there's something in there that's interesting, but they're not putting it together right? Or I don't know what. In this last episode, I found myself going, maybe what they're trying to do is go for like a young adult CW tone, which they're not pulling off if they are. But I thought maybe that's it, because the dialogue is very throwaway, garbagey, kind of like that.
Yes.
Oh, maybe it's like supposed to be like a young kid show, but I don't know. I'm just trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a difference between true mystery and bad writing, right? By episode 4, I should not still be saying, what are any of these people's motivations?
I totally agree. Yeah. Brian, what are you going to say to that?
I lost my train of thought here. I don't know. I don't hate the show. I think it's just a mediocre show here. I think we try to kind of find little angles to take that to try to make it more interesting, but just the truth ends up being that it's the most boring, mundane thing that actually does happen in the show. And I think that's what is ultimately disappointing about it and why it's so mediocre. It's not like the worst thing. Yeah. I can think of, there are worse quality things here. I did like Ahsoka a bit, but, so far I'm mildly interested. I guess I'm watching it just so I'm getting something out of my Disney Plus subscription, because I really just watch whatever show is on and that's it. Like I never go watch anything else ever, and I might even cancel it for a while after this, because what's coming after this,
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah. It's interesting that you say that because, Mike said on a scale of Andor, which is like, that's the best, which I think all 3 of us agree is Andor's the best
100%.
Disney Plus Star Wars show. But then, Brian, what is your other end of the spectrum then, if it's not Ahsoka?
What's my low point of Star Wars?
of Star Wars Disney Plus.
Disney Plus Star Wars. Is it Obi-Wan? Maybe no.
Yeah.
That's probably a good place to start. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say Obi-Wan is the lowest point for me, but this show is kind of neck and neck with that right now, honestly. There's something that happens in this episode later on that I want to talk in depth about with you guys that I'm just like, come on, what are you guys doing here? This is ridiculous. But we'll get to that. It's towards the end of the episode. I wanted to talk about a comment that Mike said, and Brian, you kind of echoed it too, which is that, like, I think Mike, you said, or no, Brian, you said this, which was like, they're just doing the most boring thing that you could expect when you're fantasy booking, when you're kind of thinking, what are they going to do? And then they just end up doing the most predictable, boring thing. The Sith Lord's identity, I think it's going to be the most boring thing too. And so, Mike, why don't you take it away? Who do you think the Sith Lord is that shows up in this episode?
I mean, it feels like it could be Quimir, who's the actor from The Good Place. But also, like, why? You know what I mean? Like, let's say it is him, and there's a slight reveal, and then what's the next beat?
Yeah. I kind of feel like you're right.
The one thing in this episode that I liked is at the very end when the Sith Lord floated down like Count Dracula.
Right.
I was like, that's kind of cool. That was a cool, scary image.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I give you that, but at the same time, I hated how the episode ended right there in that exact moment, mid like force action.
Yes,
that had to have been a last-minute choice because it's 34 minutes, which is extremely short for even this series. So it makes me feel like they were in the editing. They were like, you know what? Let's save this for the next episode because it's the only episode that we have here.
Yes, they're basically like lightsaber battle edging us. They're like, oh, you're ready? Now you're gonna have lightsaber battle blue balls for a week.
This screams that this show was meant to be an episode shorter, and they strung it out to make it longer, to keep people like me subscribing longer. Because there's nothing else I'm going to watch, and I'm going to shut it off. Keeps me paying an extra week, I guess.
Yeah, no, but that's what it all kind of comes down to. And we've all watched videos on this where they talk about how this stuff is just basically supposed to be content to keep people subscribed, and it doesn't seem to be anything endearing. Like, there's nothing that like really grabs me or excites me about this. And, I unless you guys have another person that you think is going to be the Sith Lord, I think it is going to be Quimir too. Like,
I haven't ruled out that it's the mom.
Which mom?
I would say the mother Anissa. I think it's more likely her.
Okay.
But it probably is Quimir. But it kind of bugs me because Mike mentioned The Good Place. I love The Good Place, and the actor Manny Jacinto played Jason Mendoza, which is possibly one of the dumbest characters of all time, and it's just so hard to believe that because you see so much of that character he played in Quimir, and it's just so hard to see the Dracula floating guy be the same person, It's a twist, but it's not a good twist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mike brings up a really great point of like, okay, so he is the Sith Lord. What does that matter besides that it's like a twist moment for the audience? Like, oh, it's this guy that we already know.
So that's why I think it's the mother, because I think the mother has a reason to want vengeance on these Jedi for breaking up her family. What does this guy have to do with anything? Nothing so far that we know of. So that's why I kind of want it to be the mom rather than the other guy, than Quimir. But I feel like it's gonna be Quimir.
Yeah. Well, Mike, as a guy that has read some of the High Republic stuff, and we've talked about the High Republic, is there any way that this stuff ties in with that and expands on greater Star Wars lore? Like, do you think there's anything that they could do with this that would make it justify being a High Republic show and justify it being this bigger thing?
No. All right, guys, it was good recording with you.
Right.
No. Yes, you and me read a lot of the books a couple years ago. We reviewed 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
Before the quality control went way down. And
Yeah.
what was interesting about those books was it was an earlier time where the Jedi were more pure. The Jedi were less involved in politics, and had better intentions. Whereas this is set at the very, very edge, the very end of the High Republic. And so far, what we've seen are the Jedi stealing children, which is fine. You know what I like about the Last Jedi. There, I said it. What I like about the Last Jedi
There we go.
is
We like the Last Jedi here.
Yes.
critiquing
Yeah.
the Jedi. I like critiquing the Jedi. But I thought this was going to be something different. There's no reason this is set at the High Republic. It could be any time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they cut off the option of seeing Yoda very quickly in this last episode. They were like, "Should we tell the High Council?" They're like, "No, we don't want Yoda to be in the show."
Right. Right.
He doesn't want to be in it.
Yeah.
Yoda said, "No, I'm busy."
Schedule too full, I think. Try back next week. But it's just like there's the fantasy booking part of me that's like, okay, well, it's set in the High Republic time. This is what I think. This is what I genuinely think. I think that Disney was like, okay, we have this High Republic initiative. We have comics. We have novels. We have to have some kind of show or something too to make it a big deal. Just like Shadows of the Empire, where we had a video game and we had a soundtrack and we had comics and a novel. With this, it's like they wanted to do that. They hired this person that I think had no interest in the High Republic whatsoever. And then it's just like, oh, let's just tell a prequel story, like set in the prequel era. And this guy could essentially be a fill-in for Qui-Gon Jinn, Soul.
I mean, other than the Green Woman, are there any other High Republic?
That, actually.
Wait. What'd you say, Mike? Mike, say your thing, and then Brian.
Sorry. I was just saying, other than the Green Woman, I forget her name. Are there any other High Republic characters in this?
So that's Vernestra Rowe, and you and I read her, and she was like
Yeah.
a kid when we read about her. But as far as characters in the High Republic, that's it. There's a Wookiee that is a Jedi, but it's not Buryaga. Yeah, it's Telnaka or whatever his name is. Brian, what was the thing you were saying?
I was going to say that I believe the actor, whose name I don't remember, the Squid Game guy, I believe he partially based his performance on Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh, okay. So it's not like they wanted like a Qui-Gon Jinn fill-in. It's like that was his choice.
I believe so.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like there's the fantasy booking part of me that takes this story and I'm like, okay, well, how do you make this more interesting? There's 4 episodes left. And so I think like, okay, well, if they reveal that Quimir is the Sith, right, then maybe it's that he has his own Sith Lord that he's the apprentice to. She's the Acolyte. And so the Sith Lord is someone that's going to be like Darth Plagueis or something. And it's like, oh, we're kind of crossing over here. This is exciting. But there's exciting things you could do too. If you do have it be either one of the mothers, that's interesting then. If it's one of the mothers, because like they're trying to get vengeance, they're taking this Sith path. Mike, what do you think about the idea of Vernestra Rowe as that Sith?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you said this.
They're not showing her enough to make it seem like she could be that.
Right.
Like it's not. Right. She's not involved enough in the show. She's a cameo to people, to appease people that read the books like that. Like from an outsider's view that hasn't read anything with her before, she's in it too little to be of importance.
You got a point there, yeah.
Why couldn't the villains be the Nile, which are the villains in the High Republic era?
Right.
I'm sick of the Sith.
Yeah, dude, exactly. You have the Nile. There's also these like weird fucking plant monster things that show up eventually in the High Republic. Yeah, the Nile are really visually exciting too, and it would be a whole new dynamic. I don't know, man. Yeah. I don't know why they made the choice. I think it's just because as much as they want to stray away and try new things, they always kind of have to go back to the prequel or original trilogy mold.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I think a lot about Star Wars and where it should be going and could be going. And I realized there was probably a turning point. There's another universe where they didn't fire Lord and Miller off of Solo, and
Uh-huh.
Solo was a Guardians of the Galaxy style comedy and was successful, and that gave them the courage to do different things. They are, as much as they do, and they do too much, they're not doing different things. They're not doing different tones.
No. The furthest thing is Andor, and that's much more
That's definitely
serious.
different.
Yeah. And that's why people like us are like, oh, Andor's great. Everything else sucks, but Andor's great, And it's just it's disappointing. Let's try to talk about like the stuff that's in this actual episode now. Like I wanted to talk about the tracker. Mike, what do you think about the tracker in this episode? That little beaver thing.
I thought it was adorable.
Okay.
Agreed.
That's the extent of it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's funny because like in our chat that me and Brian have, one of our friends was kind of making a joke about how OSHA like goes to make sure she gets the right pronouns for the tracker. She calls it a he, but then she's like they. And a lot of people got upset online because they were like, oh, pronouns in Star Wars, whatever. And I was thinking it was kind of ironic to me because people are getting bent out of shape because they use pronouns. But meanwhile, in Star Wars, like anytime there's an alien, they basically treat it like it's subhuman. Like why are we even worried about pronouns? Like they treat aliens like they're subhuman. And then a lot of the times the aliens are like coded as different ethnicities,
Well, I think the good guys always treat alien races and droids with more respect than the villains.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I was just watching Empire Strikes Back with my 8-year-old, and she was pointing out how like mean Luke was to R2,
I see what you. Yeah. I mean, I don't like this show, but I want to make clear it has nothing to do with, anything like that, any liberalism or anything like that.
Right. And it's the same here. Like we don't have any kind of issues with that kind of stuff either. Like who cares? It's just the quality of the show itself. It's like there's this whole audience of people that they just hate watch this stuff to be like, oh, there's lesbians and they have the Force, like they fucking suck. But like we just don't like it because it's just lame.
It's just poorly executed.
Yeah.
It's poorly executed. And I don't know if you guys agree. I feel Star Wars fatigue. I keep asking myself, what if the Acolyte was the same show, but there had not been any Star Wars in 10 years? Would I be enjoying it way more? And I probably would.
No, I don't think so. I think the quality really shines. I mean, it's like, yeah, the quality is too glaringly mediocre here to be even remotely excited about it, even if there was a 10-year gap or something, I think.
Yeah. I have to agree with Brian on there because, like, with the prequels, I remember being excited about episode 1, but then within, like, a couple of weeks being like, oh, maybe it wasn't that good. And that's after there was a gap of, like, what, like 83 to 99, like 16 years?
Yeah.
So I think it's just regardless of if it was released, by itself or among all this other stuff, I think it's just like, it's just kind of mediocre,
Fair enough.
But yeah. Let's talk about some positive things. Like one of the things that I liked in this episode was this one sequence where there's like these like beetles that are wrapped around these trees. And then like one of them wakes up and like flies at them and then Saul cuts it. Like I actually thought that scene had some tension in it for a second. Brian, what'd you think of that part?
Yeah, no, the effects didn't look too bad there. You see these creatures all over the thing. They're trying not to disturb them. You're informed that this forest is very deadly and it's hard to go through it. That's why we need a tracker, and that's why May needs Quamir to get through for some reason. So yeah, it kind of sold the idea that this is that Kelnaka lives in this difficult place to get to.
Yeah. I just like the design and stuff. Did you like that sequence, Mike, or what?
Not really. I mean, it looks like a roly-poly. Was I supposed to be surprised that it was an insect? Of course it was an insect.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I guess like we just haven't really seen creatures that are like scary and stuff since like maybe like the Mandalorian season 2, where they had like those spiders and stuff. So like it was just kind of fun to have something different where it's like, oh, it's a scary creature.
Yeah.
But I guess it wasn't that great. Here, guys, okay, let's go back to bashing it then, okay? Like, here's the thing where I'm like, oh man, this show sucks. It's when May is with Cremier, and then she's like, okay, so Osha's alive. I'm just gonna stop being a Sith apprentice, and I'm gonna turn myself in to Kelnaka. I hated that fucking part.
Well, do you guys think? I don't know. Again, this show's tone is so off. I really think it's a tonal problem. I don't know how to read things. I couldn't tell if that was a gambit she was playing to Quimir, or if she was really trying to turn like face in the middle of this show. I was shocked by that. I was like, really?
Yeah. Brian, what do you think?
The most obvious thing is probably the truth. I actually think she did a 180. That's got to be what it is, 100%.
Yeah,
so
I think it's a good idea. No, but that's the choice they made here. I mean, I don't know. She finds out that her sister's alive, and then suddenly she doesn't want to murder everybody anymore. I mean, they still killed her parents and her whole coven, unless that didn't happen, and that's only what Osha thinks. I mean, that's one way of looking at it. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I don't know. I too also think that she was legit and she was like doing a full 180, but it does sort of like completely contradict the way she was acting. I mean, just think about the way she was acting as a kid, where her sister was like, I want to become a Jedi, and she's like, okay, well then I'm gonna kill you. Like she's like so extreme, right? And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, my sister's here. I better stop being a bad guy now and be a good guy, or like surrender.
It's funny though. I actually in the I don't remember what episode it was. The second one, maybe it had to be the second one. When they come face to face, you kind of do see May kind of like melt at the idea of it. She softens when she sees Osha, but Osha is hardened and angry. So it's like kind of like a reversal. I did find that to be sort of interesting. But it's still really weird that she's going through this length of this dangerous area that they tried so hard to explain to you was super dangerous, and he's like in the middle of like, I'm gonna run away and I'm just gonna be good now.
Right.
Like a really weird point to choose that, make that choice.
Right. Wasn't she on a ship going there and she knew that her sister was alive? Like she could have changed her mind on the ship, right? Yeah.
She also set a trap for Quimir, right? She said, help me. And then Quimir ran and he put his foot in a lasso and so she wanted to get rid of Quimir for some reason.
Yeah. This supporting character in a 2024 show got caught like fucking Abbott and Costello with like a rope trap hanging from a tree, But I mean, I think that just lends itself to he's the Sith Lord because it's like too goofy that he gets caught like that,
But then again, maybe that also lends to the fact that this change was a little premeditated in her mind and just not as much to the audience.
Yeah. I mean, I made that point that she wanted to kill her sister when her sister was going to join the Jedi. Maybe one of the ideas is that May is very, very impulsive. And that's why she's like literally turning on a dime, But I don't think that we as an audience should make excuses for bad writing. And I think I
don't think I care. And I think that's the problem. I don't care what these people want. I really don't. It's just and I do think that I think the writing and directing is the problem because I think a lot of the performances are bad and they can't all be that bad. It's got to be the direction when it's because I think Saul's very good and I actually think May and Osha are good. Everyone else is doing a terrible job. And it's got to be the directing. It's got to be.
Yeah. Right? Well, since we're piling on this show, Mike, I actually said that I thought the kid acting last episode was bad too, and I felt bad for saying that. Yeah. But did you feel that way too?
Yeah. It's also weird that they're twins, so as adults they're played by the same actors, but as kids they're played by two actresses that look different.
Right. Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
man.
I guess maybe it was easier to, because they had a lot of scenes together. It's probably easier to film that rather than, May and Osha as adults aren't sharing the screen all that often.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
This
Very
is
good
like a
point.
Star Wars Parent Trap.
Yeah. Holy shit, that's right. Oh my god. Well, what else is there to talk about this episode? I felt like there wasn't a lot to it either. So
because it ended mid-fight scene. This like literal movement. One of the worst cuts I've ever seen in the show. And it's not the first time we've seen something like this in these shows and these Disney shows either. So
yeah, man, if you guys ever want to see like horrible cuts and edits, watch Interview with the Vampire on AMC. Like they just jump right into like Burger King commercials, right at like these crazy dramatic moments. It's like crazy.
Whopper.
Yeah. Like you'll know if you ever watch the show. It's
I would
fucking
love
awesome.
that in Star Wars. If a Burger King commercial came on in the middle of Acolyte, I'd be like, "Oh, this is interesting." What's going on?
Have you seen the like the South American commercials they edited into the original trilogy back in the 80s that surfaced recently? Those are fantastic.
Yes,
the race style.
Yes. But like just to make it more political and stuff, they should open up a casket and there's like birth control pills or something, or like abortion kits. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. Anyway, no, Kelnaka dies, and I bet you didn't give a shit about that either, Mike, right?
No.
I mean, I guess they sold. I guess there's a slight shock there that they're going to find this character, and we thought we'd interact with them in some manner, and you don't. But at the same time, I was excited to sort of see what a Wookiee Jedi would look like, flinging a lightsaber around, but we were denied.
No, yeah. Shame on you for thinking something interesting could happen.
Again, I want to enjoy the things I watch, and it's just I feel like I said it always ends up being the most simple, basic thing every time, and I wish it was just more interesting.
Yeah. Don't you guys feel, and this kind of wraps up this episode too, unless you guys have other things you want to say about this episode, but don't you guys feel like the potential for like what Jedi could do and the action in Star Wars, we haven't ever truly seen in live action after the original trilogy? Like in the prequels, we have that arena battle scene, but even then I kind of felt like, oh, this isn't as exciting as I thought this would be. And there's some good battles in the sequel trilogy, but I feel like they don't even hit that kind of height that I would expect from. Good.
I think that's what the High Republic was.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, did you read any of the High Republic?
I have not.
Dude,
the closest I've had is Knights of the Republic games. That's about as much as I've gotten.
In the High Republic books, they have starfighters that they literally take out their lightsabers, and as a key, they put their lightsaber in it, and then they fly the ship with the lightsaber. All sorts of cool stuff like that.
That's kind of awesome.
Not in this.
Yeah.
Yes, they're completely dropping the ball on what they could be showing in terms of what's interesting. Because, like someone said before, there's other than they're wearing yellow robes. Like, what is really distinguishing this from any other time period we've seen?
Yeah, well, they show one of those Jedi starfighters, the Vectors. They show one of them in the first episode, but then that's it, right? Then they're just on these transports.
There's no space battles in this.
No,
there's been nothing. You just see people going to and from planets.
Mm-hmm. But see, and that's another thing I want to talk about too. And boy, we're not even really talking about the show, but I'm watching Empire yesterday with my kid, and it's the Battle of Hoth, and I'm thinking in the sequel trilogy, you do have battles. You have the battle on Crate, you have the Starkiller base or whatever, that kind of shit. But in these shows, there really aren't battles in space or land battles. It's just pretty much lightsaber stuff and people getting chased. But there isn't extensive battles. And it's called Star Wars, right? That's why we watch the movies.
Some of that in Ahsoka. I mean, there wasn't really large scale battles, but there was a lot more space stuff in that show.
Well, I mean, there's this really cool moment in Andor when what's his face, Stellan Skarsgård has that ship, and he shoots that Star Destroyer that has the satellites on it. That's kind of cool, but it's just always small intimate things versus a battle of two forces,
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they reserve that for larger budgets and in movies.
The movies, yeah, yeah. And I mean, that was another thing too that a lot of people kept talking about was how this show has this like $180 million budget or something like that, but yet it has like double the budget of Obi-Wan, but yet it doesn't look even as good as Obi-Wan. What do you guys think of that?
I'm shocked by that number.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm also shocked. It's not on the screen. The money's not on the screen.
Yeah, yeah, man. So, do you two gentlemen have anything else to say about this particular episode?
I don't. I remain an optimist. I hope they pull something interesting out of this. I hope it's not the most basic, boring thing here. And I hope that I can say something good about the show by the time it's over.
Okay, I like that. Positive. Brian, Mike, what about you?
I have hope. I always have hope. Being a Star Wars fan is like being, and I'm not a sports guy, but being a Star Wars fan is what I assume being like a Mets fan is like, or being a New York Rangers fan is like. No,
it's a lot worse being a Mets fan because they're just that's like a different level of disappointment for most people.
Yeah.
But I was hooked young, and I'll forever have that hope. I'll forever be chasing that dragon. So yeah, I'm hopeful. I have a stupid question. Do you guys know, is the Skeleton Crew animated or live action?
It's live action.
Live action.
There were some leaks of the footage from like the last celebration, but I don't think they've released it publicly. It almost looks like it's trying to be like a Stranger Things Star Wars.
That sounds good to me. Do it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it in the sense that it's following 4 like teen characters and Jude Law somehow.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm.
I'll watch it.
Yeah, I mean, of course I'll watch it because I'm still paying for this stupid service.
Yeah. Well, all right. I got one more last question for you guys, and then we can wrap this up. What exciting thing? I think I've already asked you this too, Brian. What exciting thing has Disney Plus made with Star Wars that you've watched? Like, what could you kind of be like, that was the thing that was like exciting, or that was cool, or that was an addition to the lore besides Andor? What could
Mech-Necks.
You motherfucker! I asked you last week, didn't I?
No. You asked this question. You asked the question in one of our chats about what would be exciting that you would want to see, not that you have seen.
Okay.
And I think my answer to that was Mara Jade. But it's interesting you say to exclude Andor because on paper prior to that, I wouldn't have thought Andor would have been good because I wouldn't have cared about it because I didn't particularly care about that character that much from Rogue One, but it became the best thing. So maybe. So the question is what I have seen. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Shit. Mike, what about you?
Yeah, I have an enthusiastic answer. It's Star Wars Visions, the animated anthology show. It's sort of like a Star Wars version of Love, Death, and Robots, which is another show that I love. I don't. Star Wars animation sometimes is great, sometimes isn't. But Visions, there's been 2 seasons, I believe, and they've been consistently interesting and broadening the world of Star Wars and what encapsulates the world and moving away from the canon that we're so used to and visualizing things. Pete, have you seen Visions?
I have not.
Dude, can I just tell you one scene that'll hype you up to watch it?
Of course.
There is a scene where in one of these little short films where somebody's like a lightsaber maker and he's like a blacksmith and his whole job is he makes lightsabers and he makes a lightsaber that reflects you. So if you're strong, your lightsaber will be longer. And there's a scene where they're being ambushed and somebody has a lightsaber and it's red and the good guy puts out the force and grabs the lightsaber and when it comes into his hand, it turns from red to blue. And I was like, cool. It's cool as hell.
Yeah. That is awesome. Cool.
Okay. Was there 2 seasons of it? Because I think I only saw the first one.
2. Yeah, it's 2.
Okay.
I wish you would that, Pete, if we had a lull.
Yeah. I'll fucking watch that. Hell yeah. I mean, I just love when they do something different, and it's just been a lot of the same, So we have 4 more episodes of this show left to go. Hopefully, they can pull out something that's exciting. I mean, we're just going to keep covering it on here. Mike, I always love having you on our show. I want you to always plug your show too while you're on here too. So you want to talk about Pop Culture Man Children?
Pop Culture Man Children is a podcast about non-toxic fandom, and about retro stuff, contemporary stuff, sci-fi, genre, film, TV, comic books, books, video games. Where we are different is we approach things from a place of we actually like fandom, which seems like a novel thing now.
Right.
Doesn't mean we're not critical. We're critical. We totally will talk about shit sucking. But we're not critical for like things like Kathleen Kennedy is the worst thing that ever happened, or any of that Star Wars theory bullshit.
Right. Yeah. Ooh, we did a little drop on Star Wars theory too. I like that. Take that. We'll throw in Critical Drinker too. Yeah. But no, that's cool, man. I love your show, and that is one of the things here too, is that we just try to give everything a fair chance, and we try not to get into the politics of stuff. But that doesn't mean that if a show is lame, we can't point out that it's lame. So
absolutely,
we're not shills.
What'd you say?
We're not shills.
No, we're not shills. Yeah. We have to make more than like 12, views at a stream. So anyway, so we love y'all, and we hope you guys come back for some more Acolyte. Check out our boys reviews too, and we will catch you guys